My name is Maurice Son. Chinese name is Kai Cheng Son. Action number one. No, not that action. Movie.
Good girls. Hi, my name's Tashi Dorji. I'm one of 9 grandchildren of Maurice's, and that beginning clip was something that the family pulled together for his 100th birthday. I thought it was really important to tell the story of Maurice and Helen. They're 2 individuals that help me be who I need to be. So whenever I need to work hard or put up with certain things, I just think about their journey, because honestly, I shouldn't be here. You know, I really don't think I should. The odds that were really stacked against them were incredible. So it helps put everything into perspective. And our Uncle Willie wrote a short story about their journey, you know, from before they met to when they met to all the way to coming to Australia to give our family such great opportunities. So I wanted to, I guess, read that from this book and share it with you. And I'm going to show a bunch of photos of their journey while I tell this story. And at the end, I'll show Maurice's speech at his 100th birthday. You know, I think it's quite special because he doesn't talk about money or careers or anything else. So, yeah, I think this will be fun to share this. So here we go. Maurice was only 7 in 1931 when his father bundled him off from their drought-ridden village in the northeast of a then troubled China, where their family worked as subsistence farmers growing wheat, cotton, and corn to seek their fortunes in distant lands. They travelled for weeks in the lower deck of a container ship to Singapore, where they immediately started performing their acrobatic acts on the streets for a living. Then on to Malaysia, Burma, and finally India, by which time father and son had gathered a sizable troop of young acrobats, jugglers, and the like. Among them was a 13-year-old girl recruited in Calcutta, India, whose family had also fallen on hard times. Her name was Fu Chi, or Helen, and her life was to be intertwined forever with Maurice's as his life partner. As they travelled throughout India, first performing on the streets, then in various carnivals, and finally the big top, so their skills and repertoire grew. Helen and Maurice at their peak could jointly count among their performances the trapeze, tightrope walking, contortionists, knife throwing, trick bicycle riding, and even daredevil motorcycle jumping. Also Tihin Bala, I may have pronounced that wrong, hurling a ring with 3 swords into the air with a pole and directly lying supine to let it land around one's body, all done within a split-second precision. Among the circuses they performed in were the Rukmubai, Star of India, the Great Eastern Circus, and the Great China Circus, which his father owned. In the mid-1940s, Helen and Maurice were now married and had their first child, Martin, and life became more than a juggling act. Martin earned his keep as the circus clown as he was able to. The circus life was not one for a young growing family though, and they were still penniless after almost 20 years in it. Seemingly all the hardship they had gone through, all the dedication they had given to their craft, and all the sacrifices that they had amounted to naught. Not so, for now they possessed a hard-earned resilience that would stand them in the good stead for the next phase of their lives. For the next few years, after the troupe had disbanded and made a clean break from the circus, Helen and Maurice shuttled between Calcutta, which was their base, and other cities and towns in India, trying to make ends meet. They were working for Maurice's father, who after he had left the circus had brought a Chinese restaurant. It was a restaurant by day and mahjong den by night. Maurice also plied the streets of Bombay as a cloth merchant on his bicycle quite successfully. But it was time to move on again for the young family, which had now another boy, Joe, and a girl, Pauline. Helen and Maurice had been to Kalimpong in the foothills of the Himalayas before, where they were doing rounds in the circus raising money for the war fund to help the Allies buy planes to fend off the Japanese airstrikes, or so the story goes. They had fallen in love with the tranquility and natural beauty of the little town, and it was their obvious choice for a place to settle down. But life was still hard, and they had to acquire new skills quickly if they were to make it, and they did. Maurice was employed to make all manner of leather and canvas goods for the nomadic Tibetans, saddlebags, Tibetan boots and belts, sleeping rolls, suitcases, and holdalls. Here the skill he had acquired making and repairing circus tents catapulted him to the fore, and in little time he had his own shop with almost a dozen workers. Helen, in the meantime, was working in sweatshop-like conditions, sewing and making garments, with Pauline strapped to her back, and also nurturing and cooking for the family. Then with the arrival of Mary, my mum, and William, the family was now complete. Maurice had also in the meantime, as a sleeping partner, started a motor repair workshop with Helen's brother, Joe Chen, and named it the New Garage. When Joe decided to move to Thailand, Maurice took over and relocated it into the center of town. He hired some mechanics and panel beaters and learned how to weld himself, starting the business afresh. The workshop mainly serviced American disposal Jeeps and some Land Rovers, which were then being used as taxis. After immersing himself in the business for someone, he came up with the ingenious idea of extending the length of the Jeep in order to increase the seating capacity by a whole row, which was invaluable for taxi owners. Without a background in motor mechanics or physics, and without balking at such a mammoth task, he orchestrated the extension step by step from the chassis to the propeller shaft. It was a big boost to the business's popularity and attracted attention far and wide, including those of Mahindra and Mahindra, the Indian company that was manufacturing Jeeps under American license at the time. Helen was then running a thriving knitwear shop called Mummy's Corner. It was named by Martin, which catered mostly to tourists and the Indian Army staff families that had a base in Kalimpong who would also come seeking Mummy. Now, in search of a better life for all the family, the eldest son, Martin, and his now wife, Doma, had travelled extensively around the world and finally gained permanent residency in Sydney, Australia in 1974. Thanks to Australia for shedding its White Australia policy in the early 1970s, the immigration laws became more sympathetic, especially to family reunions. And within a few years, the whole family was able to reunite in Australia, Maurice and Helen being the last arrivals in 1982. As if to accelerate his assimilation into Australian society, Maurice bought a silver grey Holden Kingswood station wagon to carry the Tibetan handicrafts and cloths, which he and Helen would sell in a plain market in Paddington on a Saturday. At the close of day, they would relish a bag of hot chips from the takeaway across the street, always simple, humble, and earnest in their endeavours. Maurice worked well into his 70s and took jobs such as a gardener, carpenter, handyman with great humility, while Helen was perpetually in the kitchen making sure everyone was fed. He became a primary carer for almost 4 years despite his own frailty. And Helen, who suffered a stroke in 2018, became bedridden with partial paralysis. Maurice is a very happy and contented man today, still curious about life and quick to marvel at its beauty. His children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren are a perennial source of joy and pride for him. Amazed by their exceptional achievements, he always shakes his head in disbelief and wonders at his own humble beginnings. A veritable son, he continues to beam light and warmth on all those near and dear to him. Happy 100th birthday, yeah, we love you. And this book is something that we made with a bunch of pictures because we're very proud of him. And even to this day, our family is doing a food stall at Paddington Markets called the Himalayan Cuisine, to really continue the legacy of my late mum Mary and our family's cooking. So here's a message from Maurice himself at his 100th birthday, and I'm happy to say he's still with us as of today. Girls, Lenny, come here. It's fine. What are you barking at? It's okay.
Thank you, ladies, gentlemen, grandson, a daughter, present. I'm so happy, make me, and proud with all this. So, I can't dream to that this is happening, but it is gone. So, thank you. And so wonderful life.